So let's talk about the cycle of a narcissistic, high conflict, or just plain difficult parent. So this is something I really like to address with people because it usually can look like you're in a honeymoon phase with them or being drawn in, which can last from an hour, a day, or a month. And then they do a thing kind of out of the blue where a punch or kind of a fall from the idealized state they had you in happens, and that's when we often experience the shock and the pain. An example that comes to mind was growing up, I would get good grades and teachers tended to like me, and my mom was very proud of that, so I was kind of on a pedestal a little bit with her as being very good. But then if I made any sarcastic comment, just kind of a small one, then I was bad, then I was ungrateful. And so it can be either viewed as honeymoon and then sort of the narcissistic attack state, or you could view it as you're idealized by them and then you fall off the pedestal. However you want to think of it, what is important to know is it's very extreme and it's shocking, and honestly it can be pretty traumatic. One little disclaimer is sometimes the cycle is pretty hard to track, especially if your parent is more mildly narcissistic or mildly high conflict, because you can forget what it was like. They can have periods where they don't do the behaviors, and then when it happens again, it then shocks you. So mapping out what the cycle is you deal with is something very important, and I work on with people. But what's interesting is when you're in chronic conflict with anyone, it has the potential to put your brain into a fight or flight state. But if it's your parent, I mean, you've been dealing with this over and over again for probably most of your life. So your brain's been in fight or flight since childhood, which is why as an adult, sometimes it's harder to acknowledge the pattern and take action to make changes because our brain's used to it. Also, it can greatly contribute to why you might be conflict avoidant, people pleasing, having difficulty with clear communication, and having difficulty getting your needs met in relationships. But again, another disclaimer, I'm not saying this to shame you. All of this is informative, so really you can have more compassion and understanding of yourself, because sometimes people have told me they've gone to therapists and like, well, just set a boundary, just do this, and it's like, well, sure, theoretically, but we really want to understand what's happened that's made it hard to set boundaries with people, because there's a lot of people I work with that they can easily set boundaries with most people in their life, but not their narcissistic or difficult parent. So we really want to acknowledge that these type of relationships are much more challenging, which is why we're making these videos on them and trying to workshop them together. So hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe for more. And I talk about this a little bit more in my podcast, Healing Your Momhood. So take a listen there if you want more on the cycle of abuse and different aspects about this.